Hi everyone. Today is day maybe 7, I think, and we'll start reading React docs because last time I promised first we'll read all the React docs, then we go through full stack open, remaining this one part. And today, describing the UI, we know what is a component, this, that. Only conditional rendering and rendering list is remaining, and we will go through this when we will cover this one. In this will come, and then we will read this, and this is not super important right now. We are starting with adding interactivity, and in adding interactivity, the section responding to events, we covered. I mean, we covered, I think, maybe 3 to 4 days ago. And state component as a memory, we covered also this, but for a refresher I will go through this again. And because after this we are gonna play with the state a lot. I mean, whole docs after this, I think, are majority of the docs are related to state, managing state in also, and in adding interactivity also. So it's good to add a refresher about state, and then we'll get go. Okay, state a component memory. We talked about state earlier. State, two types of state basically, state on a front ends and back ends. In back ends, state can be Redis in Redis in memory data, or it can be in database, and in front end also, majority of the time state is in memory. And for this, on component level we use state. I mean, state is basically a form of data at a current moment. Like, this collapsible is open right now. This is a form, state of this collapsible. If I click here and this get closed, by the way, it's not getting closed. By the way, if I will open this one, this will get automatically closed. Now form state of this is closed. And if I click it again, the state of this is open now. And uh, I think we know bit much about state. State is a form or state of data at current moment. Okay. And in React, state is the main ingredient. The view is a function of state. When state get changed, the view will get updated. So V is equal to Fs is a formula of React. So we will go through this. Okay. They are trying to, oh boy, right here, come on. Right here, the component often used to need to change words on the screen. Result of an interaction, typing into the form. We are typing into the form, it will update the input field, or if we click a next on an image carousel, it should change the image. Image is displayed, the state is changed. Clicking buy should put a product in a shopping cart. The state of a shopping cart will get changed. Component need to remember thing, the current input value, current image, shopping cart. In React, this kind of component specific memory is called state. It's called component state, I think. It will be more appropriate. What you will learn, how to add state, what pair values of state. Go through this really quick. Here's a component that includes image and next button. Okay. This is not a way we should work. This will not work. Because React will not get binded with UI until we use state, and we will use state, React way of using state, adding a state into component. And React way is, we read this earlier, so I'll skim through this. We need to do this, use state. Then this data, this state will bind it with our UI, and when this state will change or UI will be get updated. look at this. I mean, this handle click is a side effect, and this will change. This is doing some outside work outside of, I mean, this is a whole pure component, but this is doing outside work. This is updating the state, and when the state will get updated, we click next. The next image and text will shown. It's showed right here. And let's go more further. In React, use state as well as any other function starting with use called hook. Okay, we know. Apologies, I mistakenly clicked this. Okay, hooks are special function that only available while React is rendering. Okay, which we'll get into detail right here. Render and commit. Okay, more detail on the next page. Yeah, they let you hook into different React features. Okay, I mean, this thing, keep in mind, I mean, any hook I mean, any data we were playing with hooks should be mutable, because mutability really matters. Immutable, sorry, should be immutable. So immutability really matters to React. We should not use, I mean, do mutable operation to any kind of data we are using in hooks, like in context, in reducers, in use state, or whatever else hook which is playing with our data. We should not uh, do a mutable operation on them. I mean, let's go. Hook function are starting with use can only call or top level of the components your own or your own hooks. I mean, custom hooks. We'll go through this eventually. You can't call hook inside condition loops or other nested functions. Okay, hooks are function, but it's helpful to think them as an unconditional declaration about your component needs. Okay, you use React feature to top of your component, similar how you import modules at the top of your file. Okay, anatomy of use state. When you will call use state, you are telling React you want to component to remember something. Okay, the convention is something and set something. Okay, the only argument is index is initial value is 0. We are providing right here 0. Okay, the state setter function and the state variable. This is state variable and the state, we will get back these two, and we can do what? Your component renders first time because it we you pass 0. Okay, on a first render, I mean, on a first, this is a pure component, so on a first render it will take a state from here and add it and add a UI. When we update the state, I mean, it will update the UI also. Giving component multiple state variables, we can give. Okay, it is a good idea multiple state where their state is unrelated. Okay, if their state is related, then we can create an object or array of states and then update. You might have noticed that use state does not receive any information about which state variables refers to. There are no identifier that is passed to users. So how does it know which of state variable return? Does it rely on some magic parsing function? The answer is no. I mean, how React work with the state, I don't think this is necessary right now, and I don't want to go internals of React right now. I want to just get good at writing reactive code and React applications. I mean, utilizing its powers, not trying to dig into library and see how they're implemented this and that feature. I don't care. State is isolated and private. Obviously, state is isolated to a component level. Okay, state is a local component instance on the screen. In other words, if you render the same component twice, each copy will have a completely isolated state. Okay, this state is isolated to this. Okay, This will not change. Other one, oh boy, what happened? I don't know. I mean, reset just. Okay. Sharing state between components. This will come later. And I mean, I will not do exercises again. This is little important. I think we should treat this. Use state variable when component need to remember. State variables are declared by calling use state hook. Hooks are special functions. Hook might remind you of imports. Okay, the use state hook return pair of values. You can add more than one. Okay, state is a private to component. Okay, then let's go to render and commit. Now the I mean agenda of the day start. This was a refresher. Now we will go a bit slower and I mean we will digest the content how this content deserves. Let's start. Before your component are displayed on a screen, they must be rendered by React. Okay, the I mean basically React is a library JavaScript and component does not have to do anything with our UI is shown on the screen. I mean React DOM, React render them and create a so-called virtual DOM and then do some magic stuff and then orders to React DOM and React DOM library. I mean take this information and I mean paint over screen. Okay, that's why before your component are displayed on a screen. By the way, components not get displayed, the HTML will get displayed or CSS component will be converted into JS objects and then these objects do some reconciliation and whatnot and then or React DOM will kick in or whatever rendering library if we are using React Native then React Native I mean mobile related some rendering library will jump in and render the UI. Okay, understanding the step into this process will help you think about how your code executes and explain its behavior. Okay, let's go. What rendering means in React? When and why React renders a component? The step involved displaying component on the screen. By the way, this is feels wrong. Component will not get displayed on a screen. By the way, they are represented as a component, but eventually they are DOM elements. Why rendering does not always produce DOM a DOM update? What? Yeah, let's go through this. I mean, might be we need some AI help because I'm noob in rendering. I think I'm doing false guesses right here. Imagine that your component are cooks, okay, or components are cooks in a kitchen, assembling tasty dishes from ingredients. In this scenario, React is a waiter. Lowest designation to React. React is a boss. No, React is a waiter, okay, who puts in requests from customers and brings them their order. Okay, okay. This process of requesting and serving UI has a three-step. Triggering, triggering a render. Delivering the guest order to the kitchen. I mean, taking an order from a guest, by the way, and moving to the kitchen. Okay, delivering to the kitchen. Rendering the component prepare the order in the kitchen. Okay, committing the DOM to the DOM, placing order on a table. Let's repeat once again. Triggering, triggering a render, delivering a guest order to kitchen, I mean taking a order. Okay, taking a order, rendering, then preparing that order, like baking something kind of, ordering chefs to bake something, and then committing the DOM, I mean then placing the order on a table, I mean returning back and placing the food on the front of the guy. Okay, component kitchen, and putting here. Okay, step one, there are two reasons component to render: initial render and state update. I mean, I can repeat this while sleeping even. Because state update, I mean, I listen this so much time. I mean, also prop, some people say prop update. I mean, prop change, it's only when I think we are using so-called memoization, or react.memo or use memo, I think. But this doesn't matter right here. I think only two places where the component will get rendered. I mean, what is even rendering? What is rendering in React? I mean, this is a really cool question. Why not to talk to DeepSeek right now? I mean, rendering is, I think, converting JSX. I mean, converting JSX into objects and then ordering to a React DOM, to displaying. No, 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 not just at this moment. I mean, what I just said, converting JSX into objects, and then maybe showing into what it means to render in the React.js world. What phases or processes it involves. I mean, let's go with wrong spelling. I mean, okay. Initial render. When your app starts, basically, you will need to trigger initial render frameworks, and sandboxes sometimes hide this code, but it's done by calling create root and the target DOM node, and then calling its render method with your components, like this one. Okay, try commenting out. I mean, why? I mean, root.render. Where is root.render? Okay, right here. Let's comment. Everything will be effed up. Oh, let's read this. Huge. In React world, rendering refers to process of converting React component into actual DOM. Enough for now. I mean, this is a whole React process. Just DeepSeek told me. I mean, it's worth to going through this for now. I mean, this will be a good foundation to read this. Okay, let's go. I mean, real quick. What does render mean? Render is a process generating UI based on the current state and props of a React component. Okay, I mean, the higher level in React world, rendering refers to the process of converting React components to actual DOM elements that can be displayed in the browser. Okay, it involves several phases and processes, which are part of the React rendering lifecycle. Here's a breakdown. Okay, what does render mean in React? Rendering, the process of generating UI based on a current state and props of React component. It involves creating virtual representation of UI, virtual DOM, and updating the actual DOM and match this representation. React uses reconciliation process to efficiently update the DOM, comparing to the new virtual DOM to the with the previous one. Okay. Phases of rendering in React. Render phase. This is where React creates or update a virtual DOM. Okay. First of all, React creates a virtual DOM. React call render method or a functional component determine what UI should look like based on a current state or props. During this phase, functional components are executed. Class components leave them. React generate tree of elements virtual DOM. I mean, from JSX, React will create a virtual representation of DOM. This phase is pure, has a no side effect. It simply computes new UI representation. React compares newly generated virtual DOM to previous virtual DOM, and if there are changes component tree. React uses definer to determine minimal set of changes needed to update in actual DOM. Commit phase. In this phase applies to changes identified during reconciliation to actual DOM. The browser paints the updated DOM on a screen. DOM is updated. React trigger lifecycle method or hooks like. Okay. Re-rendering state change. No, prop change. This is a lie. Okay. Key step virtual DOM. Then do a reconciliation. This is cool. First virtual DOM will be created, then it will be, I mean, reconciliation will happen. It will, I mean, compare old virtual DOM with the old virtual DOM. If there are changes, it will push those changes or maybe swap DOMs to each other or destroy old DOM and I mean, create a new virtual, I mean, keep new virtual DOM if there is an state change. So we need to create new virtual DOM, and we have one already created vi virtual DOM, and React will compare them. Okay, if there is a change, React will change old virtual DOM, and when old virtual DOM will be updated, the React DOM lib will kick in and update actual UI on web. I think I'm right. I think, yeah, you have got the core idea. I mean, this is a really, I mean, compare all leave these jargons, reconciliation and diffing for now. I mean, the really simple is when we load our app, React create a whole virtual DOM of or a UI representation, and React DOM will kick in and add a create a basically UI out of it. And when the state change, it will create a new virtual DOM and compare to old. And if there are changes, it will add those changes only where changes happen. And then React DOM will kick in and update actual DOM. Okay, this is a commit phase where browser DOM update to a reflect to UI. Okay, I mean this is why use virtual DOM? I mean, leave it for now. Initial render, state change, reconciliation will happen, and then it will be get committed. Okay, before initial render creates an initial virtual DOM. I mean, let's go to Excalidraw and right here. I mean, first of all, the let's. I don't wanna. I mean, create a whole DOM elements here, but I think I should. Let's take a simple example. Simplest example of, I mean, we can. I mean, let's say we have an app component. Okay, app has, oh, this is an app component. App component, this has a one, few elements like button, button, bottom, not button, and h1, and this is enough. When React will render, first of all it will create a virtual DOM out of it. I mean, app must will be wrapped in div. Uh-oh, what happened? I mean, it will be like kind of some JS objects, div, and I mean tree like structure of this representation of this. I mean button and btn, I will say, and h1. Okay, and this is a virtual DOM. I mean, one, this is the initial render on. I mean, how I will express this. This is a React code, okay, and this is a virtual DOM on. I mean, really ugly explanation, but I think this is what I can right now. Okay, this is a virtual DOM, first virtual DOM, FVM, I can say. First virtual DOM or initial virtual DOM. Okay, and when someone, okay, there is a user, he click the button. Okay, the button click, I mean, make a change in h1 somehow, and then the act will create an other. I mean, I copy this whole, I think yes, yes. I mean, this is the first virtual DOM and this is the second SVM, I will say for now. Second virtual DOM, and now React will compare these both with each other. Okay, compare. I mean, this is first is, I think, what phase? Initial render. I mean, this must have some official name. Rendering. This is the rendering. Then this is I mean, this state change, and then again rendering happen and new virtual DOM is created, then reconciliation or comparison between these two DOMs, virtual DOMs happen. And let's say there is a change in h1. Okay, there is a change in h1. Okay, React will change this h1 text to something else. Okay, I should create, I mean, I should spend more time and create these illustrations or whatever they are more perfectly. I mean, like here, H1 should have a hello text. Okay, H1 have already, let's say, hello. And now when we clicked a button, this appends or added. I mean, let's say, I mean, this we should not do like this, but let's say hi. Okay, this is change in hi, and now the React sees the update and it convert added. Okay, wait a second. This was hello first. This was hi first. Okay, now we added a hello with the state update somehow, and this converted into now. Now this will added. The hello will be added in UI instead of hi. Okay, in H1. Now the state is changed and virtual DOM are reconciled, and now we need to add hi hello in here, and the actual DOM, let's say we need a space little bit, and how to get a space, I think hand tool, and then how, yeah, I mean, how to get rid of this. Okay, I mean, this is a browser screen. Okay, this is a browser screen. Now the UI will be the UI will be committed with the h1 hello, like hello inside, I mean h1 obviously. Okay, I mean, this is the simplest and most stupid way I think to explain a rendering process, but this is a really initial one. We'll come back to this and we will refine this more and more and more. I mean, I want to give a really high level overview because I don't want to add a technical jargons and bother myself and you to, I mean, reconciliation and diffing and React fiber and whatnot. I mean, there are just three phases. Okay, first of all, initial render. Okay, then the second is, I mean, in initial render, virtual DOM is created. Then state update if happen. First initial render will happen and committing will happen. Okay, I mean, yeah, that the components JSX will convert it into somehow UI, and UI will be added to a React DOM, and React DOM to a browser screen or mobile screen or whatever screen, whatever UI we are experiencing. So on first load of the page or load of the mobile app, whatever it is, uh, initial virtual DOM will be created and then instantly get committed and UI will be shown. And then if state will be changed, then another virtual DOM will be created and then comparison happen. And after comparison, which one wins, I mean, after final decision, this all will be passed again to uh, rendering or painting library, and then it will be committed. I mean, we can say it will be committed to screen. That's it. That's the process of React rendering. Okay, I mean, this was a lot. uh, we are getting late. Okay, re-renders. Once component has been initially rendered, it means it created a visual DOM and committed to a screen or UI. You can trigger a further renders by updating its state with the set function, set state, or we are using reducer context or whatever, maybe some state management library, and then it will be state update and it will trigger a re-render. Okay, updating your component state automatically queues a render. I mean, what are queues? Queues are just a line, and I mean line of updates or line of function execution, like it on a principle, I think last in first out, first in first out, maybe. I mean, I should little bit check what, I mean, in queues, LIFO principle, last in last out. Okay, because queue is a line, you came in a line last, and if there are other peoples in a queue, first they will go, they will get processed or whatever their thing they will done, and then your number will come. So it is last in last out. Okay, queues, I mean, let's sequence of people awaiting to their attended process. Queue is a data structure. I mean, let's say data structure. Data structure. I mean, queue data structure. Let's say. I mean, geek for geeks. I mean, I just wanna see first in, first out. What it means? Yeah, first in first out, it means who will come first, he will get out first, or last in last out is the same, I think. Who will came at last, he will out at last. Okay, I, they're same, we can say. I mean, I'm getting stupid right here. I shouldn't ask this to AI. I'm just verifying myself. If it hallucinates, I mean, I will get a false verification even. But I'm right. Let's go. Queue render. It means updating your state automatically queues a render. You can imagine these are restaurant guests ordering treat, desserts, and all the sort of thing after putting their first order, depending on their state of the first thirst or hunger. Okay, how? Yeah, same behavior. What I said. FIFO or Lilo. I mean, uh, LIFO is different. Lilo, Lilo and FIFO are same. Okay, LIFO last in first out is, I think it's an other data structure. It should be what data structure use LIFO. I mean, which, I'm just out of curiosity. Data structure uses LIFO. I mean, what happened, man? Where is my DeepSeek? What I just clicked? Mm, what's happening? Processing the LipoElastin stack. Okay, stack. I mean, we also learned two data structures today, also stack and queues. Okay, stack is like this. Okay, this is a stack. Okay, this is a stack. Okay, different colors. This is a stack. Oh, now this came at first. Now this is not a stack way of drawing stack. stack is this way. Okay, he came at first. Okay, then this one came at second. Okay, and let's say this one came at third, but when we will execute or out, this will get out first, this will get out once. Oh, why I am unable to catch it. This will execute it on second and this will execute it on third. So last in, first out. This came at first, but he is getting out at last. And in queues are different. Queues are just like, you can imagine queues first in, first out. Okay, this is the first in, then there is a second in, then there is a third in. So when we are trying to out or execute, this will execute it first, this will second, this will on third. Okay, I mean, we learned about two data structures today also. Let's go. You can imagine these are the restaurant. I mean, we went through state update, triggers, and re-renders. Okay, React renders your component. After you trigger a render, React calls your component to figure out what display on screen. Rendering is a React calling your component. On initial render, React will call a root component and it will create a virtual DOM. Okay. For subsequent render, React will call function component whose state get updated, trigger the render. Okay. The process is recursive. If updated component returns some other component, React will render that component next, and if that component also returns something, it will render that component next, and so on. The process will continue until there is no more nested components and React know exactly what should displayed on screen. Image. On this component, React will see this. It will go recursively, not recursive. During initial render, React will create DOM nodes. I mean, this will be interesting. Section h1 image. Okay, section h1 and image. Where we are. Create element. Okay, create element is a DOM method. Okay. Okay. React will calculate their properties if there are any have changed since the previous render. It won't do anything with the information until next step, the commit phase. Okay, let me see how much time I spent today. Okay, I mean, I need to read these two again. Okay, during initial render, React will create a DOM nodes. Okay, I mean, this is a higher level, I think, explanation. React will create a virtual DOM and whatnot. Section h1 and image. For now, let's think this is it. During re-render, React will calculate which of their properties, if any, have changed since the previous render. It won't do anything with that information until the next step, commit phase. Same input, same output. Giving on the same input component should always return the same JSX. When someone orders a salad and tomatoes, they should not receive a salad and onions. Okay. It minds own business, pure calculation, and that's why React recommends to use a pure components. I mean, keeping component pure. Okay, otherwise you encounter confusion and use a strict mode and whatnot. Uh, The default behavior of rendering all component nested within updated component is not optimal for performance. If updated components very high in the tree, it will run into performance issue. There are several opt-in ways to solve described performance section. Don't optimize prematurely. It means do not optimize before you feel there is need of optimization. React commits changes to the DOM. After rendering the component, React will modify the DOM. For initial render, React will use the append child DOM API and put the DOM nodes it has created on the screen. For re-render, React will apply minimal necessary operation calculated while rendering to make DOM match the latest rendering output. React only change DOM nodes if there is difference between if there is a difference between renders. Okay, for example, there is a component that re-renders with the different props fast. it parent it's parent every second. Notice how you can add some text input updating value, but text does not disappear when component re-renders. Okay, it means this will not, I mean, yeah, I mean, I can do this. I mean, uh, this work is because during the last step, React only updates the contents of H1 and new time it uses the input appear to J in a JSX same place last time. The React does not touch input and its value. What is this browser paint? After rendering is done, React updates the DOM. The browser will repaint the screen. Although this process is known as the browser rendering, we will refer it as a painting. Avoid confusion throughout the docs. Trigger render commit. Okay. On initial, everything will get triggered and get rendered and get committed. On second, when state will change, then triggered, then rendered, and then committed. Let's go with state as a snapshot. State variable might look like a regular JavaScript variable that you can read and write to. However, state behaves more like snapshot. Hmm. Okay, what it means. Setting it does not change the state variable you already have, but instead triggers a re-render. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Setting it does not change the state variable you already have, but instead triggers a re-render. What you will learn: how to setting state triggers a re-render, when and how state updates, why state does not update immediately after you set it. I mean, this is, I mean, why some confusion came in when, I mean, there are a lot of examples on internet. I mean, we will go to this. How relevant handlers access a snapshot of the state. Setting a state triggers a re-render. You might think of your user interface as a changing directly into response of user event like click. In React, it works bit differently, little differently from this mental model. On previous page, you saw a settings state request a re-render. This means that an interface to react an event, or when an event will happen, the interface will react. Let's reset this. You need to update a state. In this example, you may press a send and React renders tells React to re-render a UI. Okay, a lot of code and just did this. Your message is on the way. Okay, is it reached? No. Let's go. We should go through this code to understand this explanation. Okay, first of all, send is false. Okay, message hi. I mean, if there is send, I mean, it means if there is send is a truthy value, then it will return this. Okay, there is a form. The on submit handler e.prevent defaults when we are setting is sent to a true. If it's a true, then it will and send a message. This send message is basically I think we are getting a message out of this and submitting it. I mean, this is, I mean, imaginary thing. We are not sending any message anywhere. Function send message, I mean, nothing. It's doing nothing. Just we are calling send message. Hmm. Okay, we are taking message out of text area and we are adding a state to it. This is send, and we are taking a message and doing there, and we are showing the message is send it. Okay, let's go. Here what happens when you click a button. When to on submit event handler executes, I mean, they're talking about this guy. Okay, we updated it, queues a new re-render. It send is true and queues a new render. React re-renders the component according to the new isSent event value. IsSent value. Let's take a closer look. Rendering means React is calling your component. Oh, what the hell is going on? They're giving a same. No, this is not the same. This is what it is. I mean, rendering means all this all we read just a moment ago. Triggering, render, and commit. Okay. Rendering means React is calling your component, which is a function. The JSX you return from that function, like a snapshot of the UI in the time. Its props, event handler, and local variables were all calculated using its state and at the time of the render. Okay. Unlike photograph or movie frame, UI snapshot you return is interactive. It includes logic like event handlers specify what happens in a response of input. React updates the screen to match the snapshot and connects the event handler. As a result, pressing button will trigger the click handler from your JSX. When React re-renders component, React call your function again, your function return a new JSX, React then updates the screen match a snapshot of the function return, executing a function, calculating a snapshot, and updating a DOM tree. As a component memory, state is not a regular variable that disappears after function returns. State is actually lives in a React itself, as if on a shelf outside of your function. When React calls your component, it gives you a snapshot of the state that particular render. Your component returns a snapshot of the UI with the fresh set of props, event handler, and it calculates using state values from the render. You tell React to update a state. Okay. React update a state value. React passes a snapshot of the state value into a component. Okay, and the component get updated. Here the little experiment show you how this works. In this example, you might expect clicking +3 button would increment counter 3 times because set number 3 times. See what happens. I mean, this will add 1 1 1 1 1. Why? Because why? We are setting this 3 times, but the state update will get queued and we are getting number from here. Okay, we're getting number from here. I mean, I can even comment out. I mean, comment this. First, this will get 0 from here. I mean, we clicked once at the first moment, 0 plus 1. Okay, this will become 1, will become 1, but this value is still 0 because we are in an event handler and we didn't, I mean, updated the state and we didn't render and show, so we have a snapshot of 0 right now. We don't update the snapshot until we render and commit and show to the screen. Okay, then this will go through same 3 times. Okay, 0 plus 1, 0 will be get ticked because just because we have a same snapshot. Notice the number only increments once per click. Okay, setting the state change it for next render. During the first render number was 0 and this is why that render on click handler values is still even if set number is number plus 1 was called. Okay, I mean, here is a more explanation. We should go through this. Here is what happened on button click. Set number plus 1, number of 0, number plus 1, 0 plus 1. React prepares to change number to 1 on the next render. Set number again, React do same again and React. Even though call 3 times, this render event handler number is always 0, so you can set a state to 1 3 times. This is why after your event handler finishes, React re-renders the component number 1. Okay, we can do this way. For next render, this will happen like this. And so on. Well, that was fun. Try to guess clicking the button what will alert. Hmm. I mean, this will alert 0. Why? Because when we are clicking this will not update a state. State update is on the way. Now this will add 5. Now this will do 10. Okay, let's reset. Why 0? Because I mean this will take value. This is taking the set alert is taking value from the number and I mean recent state snapshot and recent snapshot is value is 0 Okay, if you subs if you use the substitution method from before, you can guess that alert shows 0. Okay, but what if you put a timer on the alert? So only after the component re-render, would you say 0 or have a guess? 5. This is a tricky one. I think still 0 because this took days from here. Uh, 0 because when we click this, surprised? If you use substitution method, you can use a snapshot. Snapshot, keep in mind the thing snapshot. When we click this, the snapshot of the previous render will add, values will be added right here. Snapshot, not a Snapchat, but a snapshot. We need to remember more in React. Set number and 0 and the state store in React may have changed over the time alert runs, but it was scheduled using a snapshot of the state at the time user interacted with it. The state variable will never change within a render. Even if event handler code is asynchronous inside the render on click, the value number condition continues to be 0 even after set number 5 was called. The value was fixed and when React took a snapshot and UI by calling a your component. Okay, here is an example it how that makes your event handler less prone to timing mistake. Blow it from the send message within a 5-second delay. Imagine this scenario. You pressed a send button sending hello to Elias. Before 5-second delay ends, you change the value to field a Bob. What do you expect? Alias, because we took a snapshot. Send, I'm sending alias, okay. Alias, always alias. Until we change to how much time I clicked. Enough. Let's turn to Bob and now after a couple of seconds I wanna see a Bob right now. React keep values fixed within a render event handler. You don't need to worry about whether the state has changed while code is running. But what if you want to read latest state before a re-render? You will want to use state updater function covered in a next page. Next page, then we will go through a next page. We don't need to worry about this right now. Recap. Setting state request a new render. Okay, when state will change, the UI will get rendered. Oof. React stores state outside of your component eh, as if on a shelf. When you call useState, React gives you a snapshot of the state for that render. Variable and event handlers don't survive re-render. Every render has its own event handler. Okay, the event handle will get destroyed and recreated maybe. Variables and event. Okay, every render and function inside it always see a snapshot of state React gave to that render. Obviously, a previous state snapshot of a state. You can mentally substitute state in event handler or similarly how you think about rendered JSX. Event handlers created in the past value of the state values and render they were created. Some challenges. I'm not ready to take a challenge right now, but let's do. Here is a crosswalk light component that toggles the button is pressed. So what's wrong with this? Change to stop, change to start, walk. Okay. Send an alert to handler when light is green. What? I mean, this is a challenge. Where is the challenge? Show solution. I don't want to see a solution. Confusing. Super confusing. Here's a crosswalk like component that toggles when button is pressed. Walk. Okay. Stop. Okay. Okay. Add an alert click handler when light is green. Says walk. And can just alert walk. That's it. What it mean by true false? Okay, again. Little bit cheating. Let's do a little bit cheating and we are good to go. Walk. Stop. Show solution. Stop is next. Walk is next. Stop is next. Okay. Let me see time. No, I can spend 30-40 minutes more, I think. Setting a state variable will queue another render. But sometimes you might want to perform multiple operations on a value before queuing to the next render. To do this, it helps to understand how React batches state updates. Hmm, what batching is and how React uses process multiple state updates. How to apply several updates at the same state variable in a row. You might expect by clicking three button will increment counter three times because it calls set number three times. Okay, the previous one example, but it's not working. We know why. Okay. However, you might recall the previous section, each render state value is fixed. So value of number inside the first render will event handler will take a snapshot and edit. Okay. Inside the first render, event handler is always zero no matter how many times you call a set number. Okay. But there is a one other factor to play here. React waits until all code and event handler runs before processing a state update. This is why re-render only happens after all these set number calls. This might remind you waiter talking to orders at a restaurant or waiter don't run to the kitchen at the mention of your first dish. Instead, they let you finish your orders, let you make changes to it, and even take orders from other people's at a table. Set color change, set color to pink, set color to blue, set color to blue, the final decision. Set color to orange. Oh no, I don't want. Set color to pink. Oh no, I changed my mind. Set color to blue. Okay. This lets you update multiple state variable even from multiple components without triggering too many re-renders. But this also means that UI won't be updated until after your event handler and any coordinate completes. This behavior, also known as batching, makes your React app run much faster and it avoids dealing with confusion of half-finished renders where only some of the variables have been updated. React does not batch across multiple intentional events like clicks. Okay, each click is handled separately. Rest assured that React only does batching when it's generally safe to do. This ensures that, for example, if the first button click disables the form, the second click would not submit it again. Mm, okay. It is uncommon use case, but if you would like to update the same state variable multiple times before next render instead of passing the next state value, taking a next snapshot, waiting for, and then updating, you can pass a function that calculates next state based on a previous one in the queue, like set number n. This n is coming from queue, and this way you tell React do something with the set value instead of just replacing it. Okay, now this is not a number, this number is coming from this, n is coming from q. Now this will add 3, this will make work as expected. Okay. Hmm. Can I complete this section today? No. And these two are purely identical. Not super hard. And these few were really hard, like render and commit, state as a snapshot. These two are mind-boggling for me at least. I wanna take. I'm getting late, baby. I should do right now. Finish it. Finish it. What's time? 1 hour and 12 minutes. But today it's 23:43. It's about 12 midnight, and I'm reading a docs and not sleeping. Do it, guys. Little quicker, or should I stop right here? How much remaining? Uh-oh. I think let's go, go. We are good to go. Here we go. Here is n plus n is called updater function. When you pass to a state setter, React queues this function to be proceed after all other code event handler has run. During the next render, React goes through the queue and gives it the final updated state. I think, no, it's not making sense to me. I'm getting out of mind. Tomorrow we will start from fresh from here again. This is enough for today. And next day we will go through this and updating objects in a state. I mean, yeah. This also, updating objects in a state must be easier one. This is for today, and tomorrow, next day, we will go through this. This is enough. I mean, yeah. Goodbye.